It's Mindset Monday, coming at you with energetic and tactical tips to help you level up your life and your week. Let's get it. Did you know we're in the midst of the Great Resignation? 4.3 million Americans left their jobs in August without seeking a new one. If you want to become a corporate dropout like me, but you need help creating an exit plan, I can help. Whether you need corporate exit coaching, business coaching, or you're seeking help to step into the best version of yourself, I'd love to connect with you. Listeners of the Corporate Dropout podcast can book a complimentary discovery call with me. Visit alessiacitro.com/dropout. That's ALESSIACITRO.com/dropout to book your free coaching call today. Hello, friends. Happy Mindset Monday. Today's episode is a little bit different than the typical Mindset Monday episode. This week, I'll be sharing the story of how I manifested my husband, Jeff. So the reason I'm sharing this is I was in a pretty bad place before I got into this headspace, this light bulb moment that brought Jeff into my life. And I'm sharing this because I know there will be people listening who really long for that partner, and maybe they just keep dating all the wrong people and they don't know what they're doing wrong. And really the short answer of it is that you just need to leverage the law of attraction to work for you instead of against you. In my opinion, the law of attraction is an absolute. That's why it's called a law. So you either leverage it to your benefit or to your detriment. A couple things I want to share before we really get into this story. So the first is, I'm sure that those of you listening have been through heartbreak before. And I know that sometimes it could be hard to get over that person, especially if there were the expectations that this was going to be someone that you would marry or, someone that you were going to have children with. I might be getting this quote a little mixed up, but I heard from a coach I'm working with that expectations are predetermined resentments. Isn't that powerful? So that's what I really think can end up being the greatest heartbreak. Yes, this is someone who you loved dearly, who you shared intimate moments with and experiences with. And it can certainly be hard when that goes away. But at least in my experience, the most difficult thing is letting go of the expectations and what never was. So I heard something just the other day on Instagram. I was watching Preston Smiles. He's a great follow. And he shared something about, being able to get over that ex. And he said something to the effect of, what broke your heart fixed your vision. And I wanted to expand on this because I think it's very powerful. And then I'll tell you how Jeff and I came into each other's lives. So I'm currently reading the book, Ask and It Is Given. These are the teachings of Abraham Hicks, written by Jerry and Esther Hicks. I think everyone should read this book. I will link it in the show notes for you as well. And I'm in the part of the book where they talk about this physical world that we live in, that essentially we are spiritual beings who chose to have this physical, creative experience. And when they say creative, and when I'm saying it here now, it means that we are quite literally creating our experience. So if you look at your life and you love it, you created that. If you look at your life and you don't love it, you created that too. And I know that that can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but it doesn't make it less true. So part of this concept of being in the physical world that we're in, there will always be polarity. And actually, this was something I probably need to read a couple more times to just fully digest and grasp it. But they talk about in this book the fact that we will never eradicate these things that we have labeled as bad. So, let's just give an example. Greed will never be eradicated because it is the presence of greed that allows us to understand that side of the spectrum and desire the other side of it, which would be generosity. In other words, how can you appreciate generosity if you don't know what greed looks like? So there's always going to be this polarity and these two sides of the spectrum with everything in this world in order to shape our preferences, which shape our desires, which moves this world forward. So desire is always continuing. So the point I'm getting at with this, if you were in a relationship that for whatever reason is not what you desired, it's not what you liked, or there were parts about it that you did like, but lots that you didn't, well, good. Take all of that and allow that to further form your preferences in order to shape your desire and do better the next time. So having said that, I'll never forget this another light bulb moment. I keep using that term, but it's apt, I guess. This light bulb moment when I'm in my 20s, and I dated a lot of people who were not good for me in my 20s. And I remember talking to a really close guy friend about it, and he pointed out that the reason I was dating all these people who were bad for me is because I needed to kiss a lot of frogs before I would appreciate a prince. And that never left me. And you know what? He was exactly right. Jeff and I have talked about this. I've told Jeff, if I would have met him when I was like 17 or 18, I would not have appreciated him at all. I would have completely taken it for granted and just assumed that all men were like this. So the universe really needed to teach me the lesson of, hey, here's how bad it can be. And here's all these things that you really don't like. So that when Jeff came into my life, like, I'm not a big crier. I'm not a very emotional person. But like when we were first dating, I used to cry all the time because I was just so grateful and in awe of the fact that this person and I had found each other. Like Jeff was all my prayers answered, honestly. I mean, I'm not even just saying that because of course he'll listen to this, but no, like it's, it's really true. And so had I not gone through these pits, I would not have appreciated the peak that was Jeff. So we're 6.5 minutes in already. So now I'll get to the point of the story, how I manifested him. I would love to give you more of the background, but I think sharing some of these details, might not age well, or some of these sound bites wouldn't do me any favors. So I'm going to keep it a little high level and then we'll dive into the meat. So before I met Jeff, I had suffered a heart-wrenching breakup. Like I had clarity that it was the right thing. I knew in my heart that it was the right thing, but it was heartbreaking and very, very difficult for me nonetheless in August before I met Jeff. Jeff and I met in July of the following year. And so after that breakup in August, this is 2012, I went through a string of rebound relationships. And there was one that I am so grateful for because it woke me up. So this is the last person I dated before Jeff. And here's where I won't go into great detail because the soundbite won't do me any favors. But let's just say my mom, who is the nicest person, by the way, anyone listening to this that knows my mom, like literally she ought to be in line to be canonized into sainthood. Like Anne is just, she is something else. But she said to me something that literally woke me up and made me realize, oh my God, I cannot continue this relationship. I need to get out of this right now. And this person is not seeing my worth. They're not valuing me. They are gaslighting me into thinking that I need to prove my worth to them when quite frankly, it's the opposite and I'm out of this guy's league. And so So I break it off. And when I had started dating that guy, here was the place that I was in. I had just moved back from Chicago. It was Valentine's Day. I'm home alone because my parents are at their restaurant. Valentine's Day is one of the busiest nights of the year for them. And I'm home alone in a moment of just loneliness and desperation. I sign up for Match.com. So that was the vibe that I was on when I signed up for Match. And this is, again, back in 2012. I don't even know if Match.com's around anymore, but that's where I met this guy that my mom was like, you need to drop him like a bad habit. So once I do that, and I came alive to the fact that I had been consistently selling myself short, putting up with BS, it made me stop in my tracks and just think like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, God did not create me to be devaluing myself and going out with people who don't love me, who don't appreciate me, who don't worship me and the ground I walk on. And that's a two-way street, by the way. Like, I need to worship them too. Not that you should be worshiping, but you know what I'm saying. I need to be fully appreciating the person I'm with too. It should not be a one-sided thing. But nevertheless, I just woke up to the fact that the way that I had been acting for so long, which that would warrant a whole other episode of like, you know, if you're a woman or a man listening to this and you have people pleasing behavior, you're going along with things that you know in your heart aren't right, but you feel like you need to, like, what's the void you're filling? And like, where is this coming from? From like maybe childhood or something that you were taught as a kid subconsciously, like get to the root of that and weed it out. And, you know, I've shared on social media too, that I was in a relationship that it had been mentally abusive and then it turned physically abusive. And that was the straw for me that broke the camel's back. That was probably a couple years before this part of my story, right before I met Jeff. So, you know, I say this with a lot of love and holding space for people that are in a place that's not great, but just know that you can get out. You just have to have that wake up, that realization that you are worth it. Okay, so now how I manifested Jeff. So I have this epiphany that I've been devaluing myself, that this guy is not worth my time. And I remember so vividly saying this prayer while I was driving in my car one day. The prayer I said was, and I'm going to say it again right now because every time I do it, I just feel so good. Okay, so I said, God, I pray that when you know I'm ready, not when I think I am, but when you know I am, I pray that you will bring the right man into my life. I pray that you will help me recognize that it is him. And I pray that you will help me to not screw it up. And I said, until then, God, I'm going to work on falling in love with myself, caring for myself, and being complete on my own. And so another sidebar here that I just have to say, and then I'll get off my soapbox. There is nothing that drives me crazier than when I hear the term of, oh, my partner completes me. No, to hell with that. You need to be complete. Okay? You cannot look for your completion in your partner. You need to be complete on your own. And then they need to be complete on their own, by the way. And then the two of you come together as perfect complements. That's how it works. That's how it should work. And the basis of every healthy relationship is with two complete people. You know, the other thing, there's a Will Smith quote. He says something along the lines of, if you are responsible for your partner's happiness, like that's not okay. You both need to be happy on your own, and then you are additive to each other's life. It's selfish to put that responsibility on another person. You got to be happy on your own first. And that's why too, you know, there's a lot of women that listen to this show, particularly moms. We are so quick to put everybody first, but here's the deal. Like you have to put yourself first every single day because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to be complete. You have to care for yourself, and then you're going to be able to care so much more for others. Okay. So off my soapbox. So how did I meet Jeff? So the universe and God have a wonderful sense of humor, in my opinion. So fast forward, it's roughly 2 weeks after I say this powerful prayer that I really, really meant. Like I felt it in every fiber of my being, and I was completely unattached to the outcome in terms of the how and the when. Like as long as it took, I was waiting for my man. So it happened a lot sooner than I thought, I think because of the gusto with which I said this prayer. So fast forward 2 weeks, it's the 4th of July. I'm at my friend Mark's house for a house party. And at one point, I end up being the only girl that's there. So it's me and a bunch of my guy friends. And I had shared with them the story of how, you know, I was taking a break from dating and working on myself, and, you know, told them the longer version of the story and what my mom said, which I wish I could share on air, but, you know, if you really want to know, DM me. And if you're in the inner circle, I'll share. Anyway, they're like, look, we get it. We understand that you're not dating, and we respect it. But Tinder had just come out. And they were like, we're all on Tinder. Can you just download the app just so we can see what the guys look like? Because I don't know if it's still this way now, but you had to have a Facebook account to create a Tinder profile. So you couldn't just like sign up as like a fake person unless you went to the trouble of making a fake Facebook account and all of that. So, you know, I'm one too many Bud Lights in and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it, you know, get peer pressured. And I mean, if any of you have been on a dating app, especially Tinder, like way back in the day when it had just come out, it was so entertaining. I mean, all walks are on that thing. Some of the pictures I remember coming across, like it still makes me laugh. And I think I screenshotted some of them. But anyway, I get on there because again, they want to see the competition. Who am I to say no? And I stayed on there because it was so entertaining. But again, like I wasn't really looking for anything. I was just more of like, kind of like the dopamine hit of when you scroll Instagram, right? It was just like an entertainment factor. Well, 3 days later, up pops Jeff. And I don't know that he loves when I tell this part of the story, but I think it's endearing, so I'm going to share it anyway. Jeff had 3 photos on his profile, and we had no mutual friends. The only mutual interest we had was Dexter, that show about the serial killer, which, I mean, maybe I should have taken as a red flag, but luckily I didn't. So the first photo is this picture of him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this guy's a total babe. This is exactly my type. Second photo is one where I'm like, ooh, I'm not feeling this. He was like, his arms were crossed, and he was kind of like propping up his biceps. I'm like, oh God, this guy might be a douche, you know? And then the third photo was the first photo, but zoomed out, and it's like him with 3 of his buddies in Vegas, and I'm like, oh God, you know, one of these guys. Not that, I mean, who hasn't been to Vegas with their friends, but you know what I'm saying. And so I had this thought of swiping left because of the bicep picture. Like, honestly, the propping up the biceps, whether or not that was actually what he's doing, that's what I thought it looked like. And I almost swiped left on him. And I so clearly remember having the thought, you know what? I'm not going to judge based on that. Like, I'll just swipe right and see what happens. And like, worst case, if he's a douche, I just won't talk to him again. And so we match. And here's the key. If you are single and listening to this show and you're on dating apps, Jeff did something that no one else I matched with did. And it was he phone screened me. If you don't know what phone screening is, it is the person you match with asking you to have a phone call so they can vet you out and get to know you before they just take you on a date. Because, you know, who wants to go on a date with someone that they haven't even had a conversation with, right? I mean, you could be, I actually went on one other date before Jeff where I got catfished. So maybe the phone screen would have helped. I don't know. But, in any event, like that set him apart. And then I remember the first date walking up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like mega babe. This is exactly my type to a T. And obviously things went quite well after that. And 8 months later, we were engaged, which, you know, my longest relationship to that point had been 8 months, to give you an idea. So I share this for a couple reasons. I think a lot of people who are single, they are very, very focused on what they don't want, or, you know, they keep attracting a certain type of person and they are so focused on the fact that they're single, right? You're operating from a place of lack and from that negative view. And it's a law that you will attract that frequency, that vibe. So if you're ready to be with a high vibe, good match for you that is complete in their own right, first, you got to work on you. And second, you have to envision that desire, not the lack of the partner. Because the more you focus on lacking the partner, the longer, I should say, you'll stay single. So I hope that this was helpful. Hope it made you laugh. I'll leave you with one final thing. I was just thinking how I knew Jeff was the one. Okay, this is on our third date. If you have an animal or like a pet, I think that they can really help speed up the process of you knowing whether or not you're with the right person, because animals can sense whether or not someone's good. But the third date, Jeff has me over to his house and he was like, oh, bring your dog Daisy. You know, she can run around in the back, whatever. Anyway, Daisy still to this day is poorly trained. She's almost 9 years old and like, I'm not going to bother with it now. But like when she was a puppy, it was really bad. And I remember Jeff had put out a bowl of tortilla chips on his coffee table and she jumped up on the coffee table and was eating the tortilla chips. So after we finished this beautiful dinner that Jeff had made, he did like filet mignon and like made a really good soup. I was sold because it's also worth noting that the guy before him, his way of cooking filet mignon was to put it in the oven for 20 minutes and then finish it on the stove for 10. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I like my steak medium rare. So yeah, hard pass. Anyway, we're watching a movie after dinner and Daisy jumps up and wants to sit on Jeff's lap and she starts farting from the chips, like smelly dog farts. And Jeff just like laughed it off and was so gracious and so sweet. And that's when I was like, I'm going to marry this guy. Like this guy will be such a good dad. He's so kind, so loving. And sure enough, he was. So that's the story of how we met. He continues to be my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter. I can't say enough good about him. I mean, we have our stuff like every couple, right? But I'm just so appreciative of being with a man who is complete on his own so that I do not need to shrink myself to make him comfortable. And I think that, you know, when you're evaluating who to spend your life with, the person that you can show up authentically with all the time, like the good and the bad parts. And I don't even want to label them good and bad, but like the parts of you that you feel like you might need to shrink or dumb down or minimize, the right person for you is going to love that, and they will not be threatened by your income, your success, your personality, your boldness, your opinions, none of it. They're going to love all of you. So with that, go find that perfect partner. If you haven't yet, maybe there's no such thing as perfect, but you know what I mean. Go find your person. Don't be afraid to be bold. Go get complete. And I hope that today's episode was helpful and wishing you all the best success in your love life and everything else that you look to manifest. What you track grows. Grow What Matters with the 90-day cycle to new habits journal and stay focused on what will move your business forward. Pick up your copy today at 90dayhabits.co and use code CITRO, that's CITRO, for 10% off. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If today's episode added value to your life in some way, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with someone who needs this. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram and hear how the show has inspired you. So tag me or slide into the DMs. Find me at Corporate Dropout Official or Alessia Citro. That's ALESSIA CITRO and 2 underscores. Until next time, remember that you're a badass. Stay focused, stay hungry, and dare to drop out.